Hey everyone, this is Parthi, founder of Letter Drop. Welcome back to the Letter Drop podcast. Today I'm really excited to have a conversation with Alon Waks. He is a fractional interim CMO at a whole bunch of companies that you've potentially heard of. I've seen him in and around the Pavilion community over the past year and a bit, and he always has really great opinions to share with folks. And so I'm really excited about this episode for him to actually share those with you today. Alon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Always glad to give my opinions. People know that I'm extremely candid and I never hold anything back. So here we go.
Amazing. So I think this conversation really started off from something that you said in the Pavilion Slack, really, right? We were talking a little bit about KPIs, sales marketing alignment. And I think that led to a broader conversation. You're also looking for like, hey, who's talking about this stuff out there? And so maybe you can be the person who talks about this. Is essentially where we ended up. So let's kickstart the conversation with that. Let's talk a little bit about sales marketing alignment and where marketing really fits in the big picture, especially as it relates to the board and the CEO. I mean, obviously, they're looking at KPIs. CMOs are reporting KPIs, but I know there's a little bit of a disconnect between what the board cares about and what they're looking at and what CMOs are reporting. So let's start off with that conversation. I know that's something that is near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, marketing needs to be aligned to the business objectives of the board. And there's a few examples that are always brought up when it's not. And the most natural one, a little bit archaic, but still unfortunately happens a lot, is focusing the marketing success on leads. Yeah, leads don't matter. Who gives a shit about MQLs? Like, it's all about business objectives and business outcomes, which starts with pipeline, of course, closed won, ARR, net retention, gross retention, and that's the metrics and KPIs that the board cares about. So if you ever happen to be asked to present to a board and you're showing leads or lead increment or traffic or other vanity metrics that the board shouldn't care about, they shouldn't. If they do care about it, then it's a different conversation we need to have. Then I question the whole idea. The word alignment, which is sales, marketing, CS, ops, starts with focusing on the same KPIs.
Gotcha. And is that KPI? I'm guessing it should be revenue for every company, right?
Well, then you got to start saying, okay, what's my lagging and leading indicators? Revenue is a lagging indicator. And of course, it's a number one because you can say amazing things about your brand. You can say leads. You can say I have quality conversion rate. You can say our sales cycle is great and we shortened it by 60%. But if you're not closing anything, then all right, good luck with that. So net revenue or bookings, the new revenue, obviously net retention and gross retention are your number of customers staying around, number of customers that you're actually adding wallet share, and number of new customers is the holy grail of how you can run a business, and we know that. Now, why is this difficult for marketers? Marketing does not own net retention. Marketing does not own gross retention. Marketing does not own revenue. And I'm sorry, marketing also does not own pipeline. And I know that a lot of CMOs today say, yes, we own pipeline. Well, actually, no marketer in the evolution of time has ever been able to take an op and put it into pipeline. Only sales can do that. So that's like the provocative pitch by Alon that's going to be hammered on. Okay, cool. But of course, marketing should own pipeline number that is driven by marketing or sourced by marketing or contributed or even influenced, a word I don't really like it all because everything's influenced. We have a website, everybody goes there. So that's what we should focus on. How do we drive pipeline, revenue, retention, net retention, so forth? Then it becomes interesting and you should be able to go and say CRO, CMO, or doesn't matter what title you have, head of CS, ops, present together the state of the business. Then I think it becomes a conversation that the board would be interested in to say, okay, here's what we got, here's what happened, here's how we're going to do even better.
Gotcha. And so, in your sort of like current fractional roles or past roles, what have you generally held yourself accountable to, and how have you had that conversation with your sales CS counterparts as well as your CEO and board?
So what I do is a little bit different than many people that they use the word fractional.
Yep.
Fractional isn't me coming in for a month and giving guidance. That's advisory. I do that for consistently for companies for years and years. As a part-time CMO, I come in as a CMO of the company, just not full-time. And they're usually later stage companies. The most important thing is to define a terminology of language of what we mean by metrics and KPIs of success. Okay, pipeline, conversion rate, cost per opportunity, CAC piece of marketing, CAC piece of sales, and then you can say CAC payback. We talk about all of these. In if sales is talking about pipeline differently than finance, shocking how many times that exists actually. Then marketing say, oh, we brought 90% of it, but the BDRs have said, well, we brought 50%. Well, there's overlaps. BDRs use marketing pipeline driven to convert. Which one is pure outbound? Which one is not? So I try to simplify it like, let's keep things simple, guys. There's only three funnels to drive new bookings. There's inbound, outbound, and we can double click ABM, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. And then pure cold outbound. And then the BDRs live in all three. It doesn't matter what the BDR did. But let's define those and see quality of conversion rate, cost per op, how long it takes, sales cycle, ACV, and what's with an ICP percent of pipe, all the metrics to care about. And if me and my counterpart in sales, and of course revenue operations, my best friends in the world, all look at it together, then we can really dissect and understand where should we invest more time and money.
Gotcha. And so, how do you know, at least from a marketing standpoint, how you should be directing your actions or how you should be changing what you're doing based on these sort of like shared KPIs? Because what happens when you have these shared KPIs is also it becomes a little bit less clear of what am I doing versus like what is my impact versus what is like the BDR's impact. Are they sort of like carrying the team over here? Are we carrying the team? It all becomes a little bit murky. And that's honestly like the problem that we face ourselves. Our marketing team is metric on sales qualified opportunities. It's like a proxy for like pipeline if you want, but basically it's not a first meeting. It's like a meeting which progresses. Um, and we see good results from outbound. On the inbound side, we see good results from historic SEO, and we see a lot of results from my LinkedIn. And then we're just kind of like, okay, like what is the marketing team doing? It seems like it's Parthi, historic SEO, and the sales team that's doing all the work. So how does marketing influence this? So how do you
I love it.
and I don't know how to have a conversation with our marketer to be like, okay, like we need to take these actions because this is kind of like what we're seeing today.
So basically, this is the biggest problem I see. It starts with compensation and the terrible word attribution versus trying to understand what really works. And that's why I mean this middle funnel called all bound or engaged account or whatever you want to call it. I guarantee you, if you look at the outbound that BDRs are doing to engaged or warm accounts or all bound or whatever you want to call it, versus pure outbound that have had no engagement, no awareness by marketing. If you're doing your job well, I see it go to 4 to 8x in conversion. Literally. Because pure outbound is a mass volume game and unfortunately not great. Even if you have great personalization, there's only so many coverage of personas you can do with outbound, right? There's only so effective. So that's why you should start there. Should you credit the BDRs for getting a meeting and then getting to pipeline for all bound and for pure outbound? Yes, you do, because they are doing the work. These are mini hand raisers versus inbound, which is woohoo, look at me, the big hand raisers. The second piece is on inbound. Well, the conversation lately, do you really need a BDR? No, you have enough tools in the world that can tell you this is a pre-qualified, another terrible term, but like an account that should be ICP match for you. If they came in, hopefully a persona good enough as well, you should have enough automation and tools to tell you that. Okay, and you know that well, right? So catch that, give it to the AE. If the AE and schedule a meeting for them, don't wait for them. If the AE is not jumping on them doing the job, I don't know. Maybe this AE is too comfortable in where they are, or they have too much pipeline. You should hire more AEs, or they're not doing their job. So that's a different conversation. I don't think BDR should work hard on inbound. I think you should go to put process and automation inbound and immediately route the ICP to the AEs. Non-ICP, different story, different day.
Yeah.
But the all bound thing is the BDRs should work on these and get compensated. You're just gonna have a better machine, 4x quality. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And so what I'm hearing is like, and I know people use these terms inaccurately, but the SDR role, that is somebody who is fielding inbound and trying to qualify it to decide who actually gets to talk to the AE, that role probably can be 100% automated. Like you don't really need somebody to qualify. Like you can kind of like pass on some of that to the AE, and you can also figure out how to automate a lot of that to match your ICP.
But the challenge with this, the word alignment comes here because it's a tough conversation. If your company really decided, I've had this conversation like last week, literally at the dinner. If you decided we are going for top 500 companies and that's it, our ICP is only up market, but people are still coming inbound to you that maybe I can sell them, maybe they're an outlier. Well, my VP sales we're behind on this coverage. But if you throttle and there's no qualification possible for outside the list or very clear ICP, then you don't need an SDR to qualify them again. Why do you? They are liable, they are a match. They're not pre-qualified. Pre-qualified means they're a compelling event. They are a match for your ICP. Then you don't need an SDR to say, hey, are you a human? Is this your company name? No. But if it's the dubious ground, then like maybe they're ICP, maybe not, then I get the value of a not expensive person that can do these simple questions.
Right, right. And then there's still more value in an outbound team, like a BDR team, but it seems like we're all of the same opinion that the way in which they operate is going to be very different from how they've been historically operating. Perhaps they want to be using marketing signals, and we'll talk about that topic as well. But really figuring out, okay, like who is warmed up, who is engaging with marketing, who is like pseudo aware of what we do, who is saying publicly like, hey, I kind of have these problems, or I'm thinking about these problems. And that's where BDRs really should focus their time, as opposed to like, I don't know, here's a list. These people have never heard of us before. I'm going to just like brute force it and try to see like who I can kind of convince to take a meeting with me. Correct?
So yeah, this is very important. So we've repeatedly done this over the last 10 years plus.
Yeah.
If you're SMB and more of an inbound product-led machine, that's not relevant for this. I'm talking about mid-market, up-market motion. Let's say you have 10,000 companies, very lucrative, it's big, that are relatively your ICP. Now, you can go and take 5,000, give them to BDRs to go and spray and pray, but you're actually hurting yourself the higher the persona is, the DM, the economic buyer, because they don't want to get these emails and random stuff. You can actually hurt yourself. And then you can say, okay, to make my number, let's go for warm accounts. They've heard of us, they're aware of us, they're engaged. We can talk about that later, what engaged means. But they are familiar with your value prop or with a problem that resonates. If you work on them and you're going to get to 4, 6, 8, doesn't matter, I can talk about that also. Conversion rate increment towards outbound, everybody wins. My motto is extremely simple. Never work a cold account again. That is marketing's job. I don't care how you want to do KPIs around it. Then you should say how many inbound, increment up. How many engaged or sales ready accounts, increment up, quality, conversion rate, do a reverse funnel. You can do that well. But that's the goal. And after two quarters in, a machine that builds like that should be able to define that and make that happen. Never work a cold account again. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to have the top 20 that they're going to nurture on their own. But I'm saying, how do you drive your coverage of pipeline to drive to meet your ARR?
Gotcha. And let's maybe switch gears a little bit. So we've started talking about never working on a cold account. And so what is that begs the question of like, what is a warm account? How do you define a warm account? I know a lot of people are talking about intent, first party intent, third party intent signals right now. And so what do you think counts as a warm account? What do you think are good signals for a BDR to actually be working on? What should marketing be focused on? What types of signals should marketing be focused on giving their BDR team?
It's not I wouldn't say sensitive topic. It's a topic that comes up all the time, and there's a lot of miseducation and a lot of noise about the word intent. So first, let me define Alon's approach. Okay, the only thing that matters is first party intent. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that can say to your sales team, hey, trust. We want to give you an account that we believe is very likely or has shown interest in things that are relevant to our universe. Okay, what does it mean? It means that the account, that's why I use the term sales ready. Everybody uses different terms. When it's ready to pass on to sales, It means that the account has had one or a few personas doing something related to your brand, whether it's community, events, thought leadership, white papers, webinars, literal website visits, related content on your community, but has shown interest in topics that are relevant to pain and a compelling event that you solve, i.e., value drivers 101. Okay. It's easy. It doesn't mean that this person wants a demo. It doesn't mean that they even want to talk to sales. I don't even know if they have a budget that is ready. No. But I'm saying that they are warm, this account, and one or few personas have shown interest in a topic enough to say, no, let's outbound, what I call allbound, them in a value-based approach along the stream, i.e., they are seeing pain in the customer experience and the way they drive retention with their consumers, let's say their retailer. How are you going to be able to drive repeat business and better reduction of, I don't know, of cart abandonment for them? Well, you have use cases in your product to do that. Now go talk about value. Show them a trends report, show them use cases, show them how the future with us can be, the broken CX approach. That is a carrot and a hook for sales to go and do a very personal base. And marketing still drives a cover for events, personalized content, engagement, community to drive these people closer to us. But that means it's sales ready, ready for sales to do a one-to-one. Because with all due respect, marketing can never do one-to-one. I know everybody thinks that, but no, it doesn't happen. We can cohort, segment, bucket into one-to-few. And that's how marketing does well. So that's what I mean by warm accounts. They should have enough engagement so that your quality conversion rate, if sales does an amazing job one-to-one, they should convert 3, 4, 5, 6x versus cold. And that engagement threshold will change over time. You can start to say 3 activities for 2 different persona, with one of them being mid-funnel activity. All right, cool. But then you can say, actually, we see them convert very well. Let's relax a little bit the threshold. I can talk more about that. But that's the definition for me of sales ready.
Gotcha. So it sounds like this is going to vary from company to company in terms of what counts as a warm account, what types, like how many, like what is the quantity of engagement, what is the frequency, what is the type of engagement. At least in your previous roles, what has worked really well for you? Like what are the types of things you've picked up on that you're like, okay, like generally this has worked well for us. And I totally understand if it doesn't generalize, but I'm just curious if
No,
you could share some examples.
yeah. So I have a framework that I call the double
Yeah.
funnel. Everybody has different terms, right? So I have a pre-funnel approach, which is the wave. So let's say I have a list of 10K, and we have 30% of them that are, not, it's not your TAM, but it's your SAM, sales addressable market, and then ICP, and 30% of them have become away over the last 60, 90 days, meaning they've done some engagement of the right persona of something we do. Okay, then we take them, and then of course double, triple, quadruple our efforts on them to get them to be engaged. Engaged for me means that some or one key persona have done depth of interactions, engagement types, content, activities, events, visits, and all that, that have touched things that are relevant to us, not just, something out there in the world, in the meta world, but something relevant to our solution, or the value and the pain we solve. If you have that, for example, they've done a minimum of 3 downloads of relevant content, whether one of them is a webinar visit, one of them is a tool that they played with, one of them is a, I don't know, recording of a video, but that's probably not gated, but we can track that, right? Okay, that persona seems to be interested in a topic. All right, let's go talk to them about this topic. And we continue, of course, nurturing them. That's all first party intent. I have not even talked about signals from outside. That's completely different. First party, that's what I mean by that.
Gotcha. Cool. And I know that there's the flip side of this where a lot of people are kind of the opinion, and this happened about 10 years ago. People started getting scared of downloadable assets. They were like, oh no, if I put my email into this gated ebook or white paper, I know I'm going to have a BDR who's going to give me hell for the next 2 weeks. And so they started getting averse to a lot of these. And over time, I think we've moved away, or like we've become a little bit more conscientious of like when we use gated assets. But now with a lot of IP de-anonymization, all that kind of stuff, you can hit up anybody if they even like so much as look in your direction. How do you think, and now you have this overwhelming amount of signal. You're just like, oh my God, like I can see everybody basically, or at least like half of the people who are even broadly looking my direction. How do you think that changes from the buyer perspective, where we're just starting to spam buyers whenever they even explore what we do?
Yeah, don't spam. And that's what I mean by quality. So you have people just visiting your website without doing a journey of like 1 minute and then like dropping after like 10, 20 seconds, like abandoning your homepage. Please don't give them to a BDR to give them a sequence that has nothing to do with value. Like that's the worst. Okay. Quality only gets determined by understanding what the sales ready threshold is and then one-to-one conversion into a pipeline. And then the feedback loop you can always look at and determine that. Should you gate assets? Some, I don't know, depends on your business. Should you gate a webinar registration or just open up to everyone? I don't know. I'm assuming you should. Should you gate a white paper research trends or whatever, or snippets or infographics? No. Or case study? Never. But do you ask for somebody's email if you give them a savings tool or an assessment tool or a benchmark report or their own data showing them what the future could look like? Of course you should. That's very valuable. It's deep, and that shows high intent. So again, it's I don't know the perspective for every company. I can tell you what I've done. Play with gating, ungate every content that's very top of funnel, very awareness, and you can track it anyway. So who cares? Now, are you going to hand it off immediately to BDR? No. The job of the BDR is more sophisticated. They need to be true one-to-one agents. And if you're not one-to-one agents, then I don't need you. I can automate it very easily with 700 AI tools. So I think this is what it's very important. And I see the fight between the BDR lead and the marketer and even the sales, but mostly the marketing lead, becoming more and more of a fight because of the way that compensation and success is determined. Activity is bullshit. Stop thinking about activity. Success will matters. Sure, if you haven't done enough activity, you're not going to succeed. Okay. But quality of conversion rate, the more upmarket you are, you only have a limited ICP. Stop spraying and praying there. Like really, let's start working in depth each. And over time, you're going to have high conversion rates.
Got it. And one of the things we've noticed here, so let's say your account is sufficiently warmed up, like somebody's engaging, etc. The problem here is that the BDR still needs to reach out to them, right?
Yeah.
Very hard because email inboxes are full. Everyone's going to spam. I wake up every morning with like 80 unread emails, most of which I don't really need in there. Very hard to. I mean, cold calling still works, but it's very hard to reach me at least on the phone. I'm screening every single call, and so the real question is like, how does the BDR even reach the buyer even once they've shown signs of engagement? Is the question. My take on it, or at least like what our team does, is we try to get our sales reps, our BDRs, to actually be people worth connecting with, right? In the same way that when you go to a conference and you're in sales, you don't go up to somebody and immediately try to book a demo with them. You try to learn about them, like be friends with them, share something with them, make them want to trust you. And so I think more people need to be doing this. And like, there's so many digital ways. Like, you can do this on LinkedIn, you can do this online, you can show up on a podcast, do whatever. But I think more individual sellers need to make it easier for them to be able to reach people by like actually educating, by being business consultants as opposed to just being like spammy emailers. Any thoughts on that, or like how have you seen that?
Sure. The BDR or the AE first attempts to connect with somebody should be about connection. Give me something about me, not something about you or your product. I.e., again, we take an example of somebody who's showed interest in recent trends in retail. So I'm going with retail again, and is curious about CX as a way for them to drive repeat business. And for example, they have a challenge of having connection with their consumers. Well, give them an example of somebody who succeeded. Show them how it would work for them. Send them a video. Give them a tool that they can benchmark themselves. That is actually marketing will do that A cover, but you do it one to one. Fill it in for them from research you've done on the website. That's depth. Show them a video of what their future could be like. Go into the website, give them a teaser. People will probably take a meeting or push it down a level to say, hey, this is interesting. Why don't we, a bit of FOMO based campaign? That is value, and you're giving them a CTA, which is about, let me show you how it works for you, versus don't talk about your product. That's one. The second one is, and I think over the last good few years, this is even picking up more than I thought it would be. Pushing people as a CTA to an event or community to talk to peers and interact is on steroids, especially after COVID. And even virtually. During COVID, we did it virtually even, and it worked not bad. But now, like you can say, like somebody is sales ready, and you're doing it one to one. But this is a pretty senior person, maybe a VP even. They're not going to take a call sometimes just for the sake of it. But they might come to a dinner or an event to join a roundtable with peers of their level, with an expert that they have, happen to follow on LinkedIn. So you mentioned it, social selling is crazy important. No, that doesn't mean give me a connection request and then send me a $100 Amazon card to me to the AE. Sorry, that's not social selling. That's bad selling. Okay, I mean, follow the person around, look at the interest. Like one-to-one mapping of an account and a persona is king. So please do that and then give me the next value. And I think intimate events as a CTA that a salesperson invites me to, that's cool. Yeah, I know you want to sell me at the end, but I have a pain because I'm a warm account. So I think that's something that people should try. I've seen very good results.
Gotcha. And this kind of brings us back to something else that you have opinions about, which is ABM. And I know in the past decade or so, instead of like ABM being a methodology, people have started associating ABM with software tools. They think like ABM automatically means 6 Sense or demand based, and all I have to do is just buy a piece of software and I'm good to go, which both of us know is not the answer. And so when companies really think about ABM, forgetting software, what should they really be thinking about?
So there's a few very deep things here. So most of what we talked about until now is actually account based, meaning it starts. So first of all, it starts with segment, i.e., one to few. Start with one to few instead of doing one to many. Secondly, persona. Like if you're talking about ABM, I hope you're not doing SMB micro, $10 a month. You're probably doing hopefully much more, because then it doesn't make sense. So then think about persona. So segment, which is one to few, it could be a vertical, could be geo, could be specific items. Persona, which personas are the key personas primary, and then stage. Those are the three that must be going into any account-based thinking. Okay, and that's across account-based everything, which is marketing, ops, sales, all that. Okay, you got to treat those separately, and that's sophisticated. So you might have three different segments. You might have mid-market, enterprise, and strategic. You might have three different stages in general: top, middle, and bottom of funnel, or however you want to describe them. And you might have four personas for each one. That is a lot of stuff that you need to put in place. But ABM in its nutshell is having something interesting for each one of those. So that I just said 3 times 4 times 4. That is a lot of stuff, right? And you need to be able to do that. That's where personalization and one-to-one working with sales comes in. That's the beauty of account base. Now, in everything I just said in the last minute, I had nothing to do with third-party intent. I didn't talk about orchestration of tools and all that. Building the baseline and understanding the handoff and measuring the feedback loop, once you have that baseline and motion in place, could you buy a tool to help orchestrate that with the advertising spend and signals? Sure. Or you can do your own, like I've done 20, 30 times with HubSpot or any other tool you have, with Salesforce or any other tool you have. It's not about the tool. The one thing that is really a caution here, so that's about like what is account-based everything. ABM is a bad term because people think marketing owns it. No, it's all of us. The second thing is the tools only come in to help you scale. They don't bring you the baseline and the foundation. And I know that these vendors are thought leaders and talk a lot and do very good marketing, bringing people together. I'm part of communities as well. But they're not going to give you the solution. You need to define, as we said, what is the threshold of engaged account to convert 4, 6, 8x, or whatever you determine versus cold. That's on you, not on them. That's you need to build a methodology or hire somebody like myself or others to help you. That's fine. But you need to do it. You own it. The tools come to scale. The third thing is, and I believe this is the biggest problem, is the premise and promise of false narrative. So the third piece is this whole premise and false narrative and wishful thinking about in market, which drives me insane. Because don't tell me 90% of companies in my ICB are in market. They're not. Okay. Then I mean, you're saying only 5% in market, but 9% could be. What does in market mean? Just understand what engagement level is, understand what qualified means, map it out, and then these tools are not going to give you third-party intent of searches saying these companies are in market. There's a big distance between somebody being maybe right ICP for you versus saying they are in market for your solution. And no third-party data or intent signals makes a company in market for you. It doesn't, it's not true. What it could tell you is there's people doing search, or looking at content, or looking at topics that are relevant to my space or my segment in the tech world, which is crazy, the Lumascape. Then I should prioritize them for the one-to-one approach or the one-to-few, high touch, high spend, invite them to the events. Sure, do for them the custom data report. Sure, go to their CMO to be on the podcast. Yes, that is great. All of these tools and all of these third-party intent are just a prioritization exercise. They do not mean that these companies are ready to even talk to you. First party is king. Third party is an additional valuable layer, but then question yourself, how much are you paying for that third party?
Absolutely. This was a really great conversation, Alon. I think we covered a lot of stuff around how companies today really should be thinking about sales marketing alignment and how the BDR team should be working with the marketing team. BDR should really be figuring out like what they should be acting on and what they should be pushing customers on and which types of customer prospects they should be pushing as well. If anyone listening to this podcast wants to find you or reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn, or send a dove, or like, I don't know, mail a FedEx. Like, it's just find me on LinkedIn. Honestly, I like spending time on this topic. I'm passionate and curious about it. You want 30 minutes of picking my brain? Maybe 90% of what I'll say you won't like. Hey, but at least I'll tell you what I think.
Amazing. Cool. Thank you so much, Alon. I really enjoyed having you on the podcast.
Cheers.